What is up, everyone? Welcome to round 3 of the War of the Roses Eternal Central Old School Tournament. We got some rad decks to show you from some rad people in the community, so let's get into those deck lists. First up, we have Paul with what I'm going to be calling 5-color Erhnamgeddon. And the reason for that is because it looks like an Erhnamgeddon list that's just splashing for all the other good cards. Now, notably, this list is fully powered, so it does allow for a little more splashing than a normal Geddon list, I think. But real quick, we'll just run through all the cards. Going creatures first, we got 4 of Birds of Paradise, 4 of Argothian Pixies, 4 of Serendib Freets, 4 of Erhnamgeddons, as the namesake implies. Then we get into the spells. We got 4 Disenchants, 3 Erhnamgeddons, the other namesake of the deck, 1 Balance, 1 Ancestral Recall, 1 Time Walk, 1 Time Twister, 1 Brain Geyser, 1 Mana Drain, 1 Regrowth, 1 Fireball, 1 Wheel of Fortune, 1 Mind Twist, 1 Demonic Tutor, 1 Chaos Orb, 1 Soul Ring, all the Moxes and a Lotus. And as for the lands, we got 3 City of Brass, 3 Tundra, 3 Trops, 3 Savannas, 4 Mishras, 1 Plains, and 1 Loa. Somehow could not fit Wastelands in there, which makes sense. As for the sideboard, we got 2 Psionic Blasts, 2 Energy Flux, 2 Blue Elemental Blasts, 4 Swords, and not having any in the main is kind of an interesting call for sure. Not a lot of removal main deck. 2 Spirit Links, and 3 Divine Offerings. Overall, a really tight list with some of the best cards in Old School. I haven't seen this combination before, so I'm excited to see how it performs. But before we do that, we got to see who he's playing against. Next up is Scott, aka Mox Emerald Scott, for those of you that may know this local Seattleite. Real great guy in the community, very friendly, and honestly just has a amazing Erhnamgeddon list. Yes, we're doing Erhnamgeddon versus Erhnamgeddon. Now, this list is notably not 5 colors. In fact, it's barely 4. I would go as far as to say minus the pieces of power and some of the essential includes in black. This is really just a 2-color list. It is mostly powered. It does not have a Mox Sapphire, which is fairly important to note considering there is a fairly heavy blue splash. And yeah, the altars in this deck are just amazing. I see lots of Artist altars, some Teedens, some Anson, Ken Meyer Jr., Amy Weber. I'm assuming those are Argothian Pixies. Just a lot of love and time spent in this deck. I know altars are not for everyone, same with signatures, but personally I love it. It's such a great way to customize your deck, make it personal to you. Let's be honest, if you're really into the old school or even pre-modern format, you're probably not selling your cards, so you might as well make them look sweet. Anyways, let's start off with creatures, same way we did with the other deck. We got 4 of Birds of Paradise, 4 of Argothian Pixies. I believe that's what those Artist altars are. I can be corrected if I'm wrong, but I think that's what makes the most sense. 3 Serendibs, 3 Erhnams, and 2 Sarah Angels. So a little light on the creature threats, but let's get into the spells. I did mention this was fully powered minus Sapphire, so that's what you see up top, plus a Chaos Orb and a Soul Ring. And of course you got your Ancestral Recall, Time Walk, Brain Geyser, 4 Swords in the main for him, 1 of Regrowth, Demonic Tutor, and Mind Twist, a balance. Only 2 Erhnamgeddons, which is a little light for the namesake of the deck, and 4 Disenchants rounded out. As for lands, he's got 4 Savannas, 4 Tundras, and 4 Trops, 1 Bayou, 3 Mishra's Factories, which help shore up that creature support, and 4 Strips. In the sideboard, we see 3 Blue Elemental Blasts, 1 Fountain of Youth, 2 Divine Offerings, one of which looks to be an artist proof, which is just awesome, 2 Whirling Dervish, 1 COP Black. The Northwest does like to play a lot of black. Guilty as charged. 1 Wrath of God, 2 Maze of Ys, 1 Spirit Link, and 2 Energy Flux, including, again, looks to be another artist proof sketch from the original artist. So very, very cool. So yeah, it's a battle of the Erhnamgeddon decks, so let's just get into the games. And here we go. Paul is on the left, Scott is on the right. Looks like we'll get a little roll off to see who goes first. A little odd even action. Didn't catch who was calling odd versus even, but I'm sure we'll find out. And a little rearranging of the dice as well. To each their own. I definitely prefer my deck on the right as well, Scott. I totally get it. Okay, so lot of blue power in Paul's hand. Looks like potentially a Soul Ring as well. Tundra, City of Brass. A little hard to tell what Scott has going on, but it looks like he is going to be mulliganing, so we're going to cut to when Scott has a good keepable hand. Okay, we'll see if Scott can find a better 6 here. Also, real quick, I want to call out how wavy Paul's sleeves are. I know sleeves get like this. I've definitely seen it before. I don't know. My sleeves always like, I always swap them out before they get to that point. I don't know if that's just me being too particular. I do play a lot of like semi-competitive Magic, RCQs and RCs and that kind of stuff, so I get like paranoid about it, but obviously not relevant here in old school. And it looks like Paul's going to start us off with a Tundra and a Soul Ring and pass. There's a strip, Mox Jet, pass. Surprisingly, Scott letting Paul untap with that Tundra. City of Brass coming down. Mox Pearl. All the mana in the world. What are we going to do with it? Tap for 3. There's a Time Walk. Take a point of mana burn. No, we're going to do a couple things before that happens. Regrowth, the Time Walk. Does take a point. Yep, we are going to use a dice there. Yeah, takes a point off the City Brass. But no mana burn, so. Paul looking at potentially having 3 turns before Scott even has 1. Nasty stuff. Can he capitalize on it, though? Does he actually have a creature there in hand? I thought I saw maybe a Serendib. No, Erhnam. Okay. Erhnam is good. He's not going to have enough mana to Time Walk again. But if that bad boy sticks around, and do some serious damage. The real question is, does Scott have a Swords in hand? Notably, Paul does not have any Swords of Plowshares in his main deck. No real good removal to speak of. Oh, there's a a Chaos Orb. What are we tapping to play it? All right. And we're going to activate. We'll get an Orb Flip here. And it is good. Making it look easy. I definitely made my opinion of Chaos Orb known on the channel. I appreciate those that can do it well. It is not for me. I have practiced. I've done my best. Okay, there's Argothian Pixies. And I've just decided that I'm better off not playing Orb. Okay, Time Walk. Use that floating mana +1. And now we got a threat on board. There is an Erhnamgeddon in Paul's hand. There's a Black Lotus. I don't think he has anything really to do with it now. He's just kind of playing it out, maybe. Trying to dodge a Mind Twist. He's seen nothing but black mana from Scott here. All right, there's a Time Twister. That also makes sense why he would play the Lotus out. Hoping to draw into something really big. But yeah, he hasn't seen much from Scott in terms of colors, so as far as he knows, he could be playing against Mono Black deck. If he's not familiar with the kind of deck Scott plays, I would be guessing that as well. I've had the pleasure to play Scott at least once, I think twice. Once in Portland, once in Seattle. Great guy. Sorry if you guys caught the motorcycle noise in the background. Somebody really revved it outside. All right, another Mox Emerald for Paul. Plays out the City of Brass. Or sorry, the Mishra's Factory. Gonna tap the Mox for Birds of Paradise. Looks like he does have an Ancestral Recall in hand. Oh no, he has a Time Walk in hand again. Oh my god. How many extra turns is Paul going to take this game? Oh my. Alright, we're going to play out an Erhnam and Time Walk. Suddenly, things are looking a little dire for Scott. I don't know what he drew off the Time Twister, but Paul is definitely in control of this game. Alright, we're going to animate the Mishra's Factory, swing in, take 8. Yeah. Rough. No, not 8. It should be 7, right? Yeah. All right, and then finally, Scott gets to take a turn. That is a lot of power, a lot of things on the board for Paul. Notably, Scott could have animated the factory to chump block, but That would have been probably a really bad idea. All right, Lotus of his own. Mox Ruby of his own. Buying a tropical island for turn. Neither player has Wrath of God main deck, which is notable. Scott does have his swords, but currently would have to crack his Lotus to cast. And I don't even think he has one in hand. But he needs something. Otherwise, this is going to be over pretty quick. Or down to 10. Alright, strip the factory. He could have also stripped, unless it was tapped, I might have missed that. But he could have stripped the factory last turn. I think. No, he wasn't. He was all tapped out from the orb. Yeah. Alright, cracking the Lotus here. 3 of a color. 4/5. Alright, there's an Erhnam. We doing anything else? I mean, you could animate your factory to swing in. No, I'm gonna tap it. Alright, play out the Argothian Pixies. Yeah, so he did have 1 extra floating. I was wondering why he tapped an extra Mox, but makes sense. He probably cracked it for green. Alright, got some Pixie on Pixie violence. Paul finding the Mox Ruby here. It is so interesting with these decks playing full power, how explosive something like a Time Twister can be. I know that's the understatement of the century, but yeah. Okay, we're going to swing with the Erhnam and the Pixie. Now, you can trade Pixies here, potentially. The Erhnams block, like they bounce off each other. So, looks like that will be the blocks here. They trade. Erhnams bounce. Now, notably, Paul is at the bit of a worse end here with... oh, he does have a Demonic Tutor. This could be interesting. His Erhnam has to give the other Erhnam Forest Walk unless Scott plays out another creature. Okay, we are going to Demonic Tutor. But Scott can just give the birds Forest Walk and not have to worry about the Erhnam coming in. Alright, Paul, what are we getting? Your only removal is Orb, if I'm remembering correctly. So what are the odds we see an Orb flip here? Okay, I did not see what he picked. But he seemed pretty confident of it. I'm sure we'll probably see it this turn. No, he's actually passing. Okay. So is it counter magic? Alright, Erhnam most likely giving the Birds of Paradise Forest Walk. I think it's kind of implied with players that are this familiar with this format. Alright, animating the factory, getting in for a solid 5. Or solid 6. Plays out another factory as a jump blocker. Game is all tied up. What did Paul tutor for? Alright, now Scott can animate the factory here to block if he so chooses. Yep, can animate the factory, attempt to block. Oh, and someone in the comments may have already pointed this out. Paul doesn't have a forest. Forest Walk does nothing. Alright, there's a Serendib. Is that what you tutored for? So birds can just chump block this Erm all day. Now, does the Erhnam still swing in? You are kind of in that perilous spot. Paul does have a fireball in his deck. I'm just remembering. Okay, we are getting aggressive here. We're going to swing in. Jump block with the birds. Makes sense. Pass to you. Take a point off the Serendib. There's another factory. Okay, we're going to swing in. Jump block the Erhnam. 3. Drop to 7. There's a Mishra's Factory. There's a fireball, and I think that is lethal. We are going to game number 2. All right, so yeah, that makes me think Paul did actually Demonic Tutor for the fireball. Makes sense. His opponent was pretty low. He had so much mana up. It is just a good finisher. All right, here we are in game 2 of 5 color versus, I think functionally 2 color, right? Erhnamgeddon face off. A lot of lands in Paul's hand. Scott keeping a little closer to the vest. It looks like both players have keepable 7s. We got a Trop into a Birds, and also just a Pearl for the heck of it. Say go. Got Savannah, Lotus, Serendib. Here we go. Which will get swords. I do wonder if Paul brought in his 4 of swords in this matchup. Oh, and how about Erhnam in response? Well, we'll soon find out. Again, Paul's only real removal is an orb. And technically a fireball, but we did see that as more of a finisher last game, and I imagine that's what he wants to usually use it for. He's also going to have to get to a lot of mana to take out that Erhnam. Alright, tapping for 4. There's a regrowth. Gets the Lotus. Taking a bit of mana burn. That was an interesting call. Did he have to do that? He could just tap the 2 lands, right? Unless I'm missing something. Anyway, oh, no, he tapped the land for the sword. Yep, yep. I see. Okay, getting in with the Erhnam. And Scott fully in the driver's seat here. Does have to be a little worried about what Paul's going to be playing, though, with that Lotus next turn. Okay, we're going to get a Demonic Tutor on Scott's side this time. Knew exactly what he wanted. So fast, we didn't even really get to see it. I'm actually curious, though, as to what Paul wants the Lotus for. Because he could have sequenced that a little bit differently. As long as what he wants to cast off the Lotus is 4 mana, right? A little tough to tell. But he could have brought the Lotus back, played the Soul Ring off the Lotus. Okay, there's a Pixie. There's a Time Walk. Okay, maybe not have been able to do all that. Alright, there's a Mox Jet. Plays it for turn. Plays the Lotus for turn. Cracks for 3. 4, 5, 6. Ooh, there's a red or blue elemental blast on the fireball. One of Paul's very precious pieces of removal is gone. And now we have an Erhnam that is free to do what it wants any old time. All right, we're tapping a lot for a Sarah Angel, and the threats don't stop coming for Scott. Both of these going to be getting in the air, on the ground. Technically, that Pixie does have Forest Walk, but he's not blocking with it. He's not attacking with it. He's down to 6. Can he stabilize? There's a Demonic Tutor. Did you bring in Wrath of God? I think I remember Paul having one in the sideboard. Did you put it in for this matchup? That's the only thing that's going to really be able to save him. All right, we're going to Time Twister here. Last ditch effort. Unless there's just a... Okay, we're going to Swords in response. Paul will go up to 8. And everybody's shuffling. Pretty heads-up play from Scott. Not only does he increase his chances of drawing Swords again, removes a threat. Well, blocker, I guess, really, for Paul. Paul having 2 mana up. Does have a lot of power in his deck. Obviously can, you know, play out something big that could be a good blocker, but if he bricks, he is just dead. A little bit of table talk between 2 guys. Old School obviously being a very, very competitive format. No, very, very friendly format. Very, honestly, one of the most friendly formats that I've ever experienced, which you wouldn't guess based on the reprint policy and no proxy rule, but if you do ever get the chance to build a deck, which you can do for relatively inexpensive, obviously not with any power, but like mono black, mono white, mono red, you know, that sort of thing. Okay, we do get a Birds of Paradise here. 2 mocks as well. Oh, okay, Paul did bring in the Swords. That is pretty huge. We are going to Swords the Sarah. But yeah, anyways, if you can proxy up, or not proxy, sorry, because it's not allowed. If you're able to build a very budget deck, which is how I started getting into Old School, you're going to have a blast. Obviously building your collection over time, adding colors, adding duels, eventually adding power is definitely a long process, depending on your, you know, income status. I'm definitely still very much working at it, but it is a really fun thing. And honestly, it's mostly about the community. Pre-modern has a fantastic community. I would say Old School is definitely still winning in that regard. Don't get me wrong, I love pre-modern. Obviously, most of the videos we do here are pre-modern. But yeah, Old School still knows how to throw a real party. All right, no blocks here from Paul. Surprising. He wants that Birds for something. Does not have enough mana on the board yet. Dropping down to 2. That's just dead to a Mishra's Factory if you have the right piece of removal. If there's a time for an Erhnamgeddon. Okay, we're going to disenchant the factory. Sorry, is this happening before? Yes, okay. If we can get an Armageddon from Scott here, I think he just wins the game. Both players do have a lot of mocks. Or sorry, I guess Paul has a lot of mocks. But still, like... Tapping for 3. Is that a Serendib? It is. I think I called out the altars in Scott's deck. This is just so cool. This is an altar, I believe, by Anson. So famously misprinted Serendib as If Biff. So it has a green frame. Still has a blue mana symbol, so at least the casting cost is correct. For whatever reason, printed incorrectly in English. But this has been altered to have Serendib art, which is very rad. Definitely one of the reasons why I think the Arabian Nights copies are so expensive. All right, there's an Armageddon. Somebody had to have it, and Paul is going to be the one. This is an interesting spot to have an Armageddon at. Your opponent has a Serendib and an Erhnam. Definitely has the upper hand in terms of power on the board. And I don't know if Scott can close it out here. If he has the swords and a disenchant, it is over. I thought I saw maybe a swords. I don't think I saw a disenchant. Although we might actually have it. No. Okay. Just going to drop down to 1. There's a swords for Paul, but is it enough? It's enough to stay alive for 1 turn. Alright, take 1 off the Serendib. That's what that dice was for. Swing. Doesn't really matter which one he blocks. He has to swords the other one. Yeah, swords the Serendib. Block the Erhnam. Stabilize. And really needing a big threat here. But there's our Gothian Pixies. And that Serendip is not going to do it. We're going to go to game number 3. And here we are in game number 3. Thanks to everyone who's stuck around this long. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, make sure you do so. It really helps us out. Honestly, the best way to support the channel. There's also a Patreon link, all that good stuff in the video description. And yeah, always great when we can get a match. Go to 3 games. All right, Paul will be on the play here. Looks like a good mix of lands and spells. I imagine he's keeping. A little tougher to tell what Scott has in hand. He does play a little closer to the chest. But it seems like he does have at least some lands. No, okay, we are going to be mulliganing here, and we will cut to when Scott has a keepable 6. Not surprisingly, when you have a fully powered deck, your deck does mulligan fairly well. Alright, looks like we have a keepable hand. Putting 1 back, say go, Tundra, Mox Pearl, Soul Ring, pass. Alright, there's an Emerald for Emerald Scott. Namesake card. I do want to know the story behind that at some point. Plays out of birds. And what's the land drop? Mishra's Factory, go. Looking to get aggressive. Oh, a little bit of talk here. Does Scott maybe want to take back what he played? No, he did put a land back. No, that was right. Alright, Scott putting himself down an extra card. He did draw for turn. Interesting. Yeah, that was unnecessary, unfortunately. I'm not sure what the conversation was. But he should have been at 7 last turn because of drawing a card after the mulligan. Hopefully that does not impact the game. I do notice that old school is definitely more, especially if you're not drawing your power draw 3s, you know. It's more of a game built on card advantage. Very, okay, there's Erhnam, pass. Very precise gameplay, I guess. All right, that will get swords. Paul really happy he brought those in from the side. Yeah, old school is definitely very much a game of resources and not a game full of good draws. If you don't have Ancestral Recall, okay, we're going to Demonic Tutor. Demonic Tutor is one of the cheapest forms of card advantage. Sylvan Library is actually another one. And there's not really a lot of ways to shuffle your deck in old school, but if you're looking for a cheap way to get extra cards in your hand, I found that to be one of the best cards. I don't know which round it is, but you will actually see me on camera during one of these. Okay, there's an Ancestral. Draw 3. That's a hard rate to beat. But But yeah, I ended up splashing green in my deck specifically for, well, Sylvan Library and also Erhnamgeddon. Because also Erhnamgeddon is just a fantastic creature on rate too for old school. Alright, Scott with a full grip of cards again. That misdirected mulligan, or second mulligan, I guess. Not impacting him too much, thankfully. Maybe searching for another Mox to animate the factory to swing in. But looks like he is just going to pass here. Looks like Paul just drew a Serendib, which he will play. And pass. Looks like Scott might actually have his own Serendib as well. Potentially look like he had a factory too. Oh, that Serendib will get swords. Say go. Scott having all the life. But none of the creatures, unfortunately. Alright, taking 2 from the Serendib. Or 3, sorry. Doesn't matter. Still at 24 life. Say go. Now, Scott does have a factory in hand. He can play it. Get in for 2, potentially 3. If you really want to. Okay, we're going to tap 3 here. For another Serendib. Really looking to match Paul card for card here. Paul's burnt 2 of his swords, so it seems likely that this one will stick around. Land for turn. Animate the factory. Get in for 2, that will get disenchanted. Pass to you. Ooh, and it looks like Paul does actually have a fireball in hand as well. He may be using this just as removal, but no, it's just gonna pass, not bothering to swing in. And does Scott have a way to answer this Serendib that is blocking the way? It does have some creatures, but it looks like it's mostly birds and Argothian pixies. I'll play out the pixies. And it's just going to pass. Paul taking a point. If the stalemate continues, he's definitely at a disadvantage, losing damage pretty quickly. Down to 7. Gonna crack that Lotus that he just played. Plays out of birds. What are you gonna do with the other 2 mana? We got Erhnam. Yes. Alright. Erhnam coming down. And a birds for that last point of mana. Alright, a wall of creatures for Paul. No real good attacks for Scott right now. Needs to draw a swords. Honestly, for that Serendib, probably, but Erhnam's also a very big problem. Alright, birds coming down. Maze of Ith. That's a pretty good answer. Paul down to 16. Savannah for Paul. Kind of makes me think there's no Erhnamgeddon. Because he would have obviously slammed that before. Okay, we're going to tap for 4. 5, 6. Oh, are we going to be... Fireballing. No, Brain Geyser. All right. Draw 5. Oh, he did draw. Or tap for 7, sorry. All right. Sapphire. Pass. Both players just building resources at this point. That, ooh, is that a balance? I think that's a balance. That's a very good card to draw right after your opponent draws 5 cards, but opting to not cast it here. Maybe hoping for an attack from Paul. Jump block with the birds, be able to cast balance to get those 2 creatures off the board. I mean, he would just sack the bird, so it doesn't really matter too much, but... Okay, there's a Psionic Blast also coming in from the side. Paul gonna take some damage off of that. Drop him to 13. Swing in. And if that was a balance from Scott, here's where you just chump block everything. Balance next turn. Your opponent did have a... well, actually, no. I don't think Paul did show the mana leak. But he does have blue mana, so it's entirely possible he has mana leak. Maybe some other counter magic. Okay, we are going to Maze of Ith here. Or not. I do think Scott has a balance in hand, and I do think he is seriously considering jump blocking everything here to then balance next turn. It would force his opponent to discard cards. He would have to sack a land to do it. No, okay, we are just gonna jump block or maze the Serendib. Jump block the Erhnam. Just with 1 birds. Tap 3, 4 for another Erhnam. And things are looking grim for Scott. I think he has to balance, right? That is a balance. That Mox does help. But I bet he's wishing he was a little more aggressive in his jump blocks here. Having your opponent keep 2 Erhnams on the field is a bit rough. And Scott's going to be taking some damage here. Finally dropping below 20. That's how long this has taken. Okay, Paul does play out his 3rd land, so that balance becomes a little bit better. Of course, it is a Mishra's Factory, which is a little bit worse. Okay, we're gonna maze 1, jump block the other 2. I think now is definitely when the balance hits home. Tapping for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Is there another fireball? Fireball you for 9. Oof. I think, right? It was a lot. Scott down to 13. Suddenly the game got a lot closer. 3 cards in hand for Paul. So Scott is now in the situation where he would have to discard a card if he balances, but if he can play something out first, maybe avoid it if it's an artifact. Nope, we are going to balance here. Alright, everyone keeps the lands they have. Scott will discard a tropical island, play out his own Mishra's Factory. Thinking about it, at least. He has a Maze of Ith, so he can prevent attacks coming in. Yeah, gonna play out the Maze of Ith. Say go. Things are very even now. Scott stabilizing after what was looking like a very dangerous board. Alright, there's another Erhnam. And there's another Mishra's Factory. And Paul having excellent cards in reserve. Maybe predicting the balance, maybe just hedging his bets a little bit. Definitely did have board superiority, but you know, you don't want to press the advantage too much just in case your opponent does have a Wrath. Alright, there's a Serendib for Scott. I will not win him the race currently. The Maze of Ith does help. But an Erhnam and 2 Mishra's Factories, 3 Mishra's Factories is going to be a tough race. He's going to need a little bit more help than that. Alright, animate a Mishra's Factory. Swing in with both. Leaving up 2 Mishra's Factories to potentially make that a 4-4. The Erhnam will be mazed. And opting for no blocks. No effects. Or are we actually gonna? Okay, we are gonna tap both of them and make it a 4-4. Scott dropping down to 9. And there is another Erhnam. I don't know if that's the 3rd or 4th, but it is definitely not what Scott wants to see. He just balanced. How can his opponent have so many big creatures? Even with a maze, that's going to be very rough. Okay, there's a swords for 1. I believe that's the 2nd swords Scott has cast this game. So still has a few left. Does have disenchants for those Mishra's Factories too. But I don't think he can get hyper aggressive here. His opponent is now very much ahead on life total. That swords was both a blessing and a curse. Definitely stabilized, but also made it tougher to keep racing. So yes, he is just going to pass. Alright, we are once again swinging in with a factory and an Erhnam. We're going to use the maze on the Erhnam. Scott thinking about it. Does he have another trick? Does he have a disenchant? Oh, we are just going to be double blocking the factory. And if Paul has something here, it's going to be very rough for Scott. Okay, he's going to buff it 2. So he can take out the Serendib if he wants. Oh, there's the swords for the Mishras, and Scott is... he's going to tap it to himself to gain 3. Yeah, makes sense. The Erhnam will die. Or the Serendib, sorry, will die. And it is Scott's turn with no creatures on the board, just a soul maze. A tap. Okay. There's a Sarah. Sarah cannot really block the Erhnam, but it can at least trade with the factory, if that's really what you want to do. It's not ideal, but you can do it. Alright. Maze the Erhnam. Do you trade? No. He's going to take 4 here, drop to 7, potentially wanting to get 1 attack in at least with the Sarah. Hope for a disenchant. Or at least another blocker. Looks like he might have found it. Yeah, there's a Pixies. Swinging for 4. And pass. So slightly back in it. Those Pixies, not the best blocker in general, but they will do the job. sorry, the Argothian Pixies, the perfect blocker for Mishra's Factories. There's a Spirit Link for the Sarah, so that is functionally non-existent. He can chump block with it, but it will gain Paul 4 life before it dies. But yeah, sorry, those Pixies reminded me. Can't be dealt damage by an artifact creature, of course. Mishra's Factories being artifacts. So yeah, actually a very good answer to at least one of those factories. And Paul passing here. And then Scott just passing right back. Paul has everything in place. What is he going to do? There's a City of Brass. He's going to tap the City of Brass. Don't forget to take a point of damage. Don't forget to take a point of damage. That black mana isn't free. What are we grabbing though? Does he grab Time Twist and try to get his Fireball back? He only has one. He already cast it. That's the only thing that straight up wins him the game right now. A recall actually would do it too, unless he took the recall out. Recall next turn, Fireball for the win. There's a Psionic Blast. That's not quite it. I mean, he can swing in. Oh, are we Psionic Blasting the Argothian Pixies? Looks like we are. Okay. I mean, he could have blasted Scott and then swung in with the 3 factories and the Erhnam and won, right? I mean, he's not playing around swords or anything like that, so that is a little risky, but this is also sort of risky. All right, we're going to take the Erhnam out. And, I mean, the best, yeah, Scott might as well just block the factory. Loses the factory, but the Spirit Link as well. Gains 4. And pass to Scott. And now Paul has 2 2/2s that can help close things out. Unless Scott can draw a big creature to block. An Erhnam would be huge. Although, oh, a Swords is also pretty good. It doesn't solve all his problems, but it definitely helps. Oh. And an Erhnamgeddon is very good. And suddenly Scott is back in it, at least temporarily. Gonna play a land for turn. If he can top deck a creature before... Oh, there's an Ancestral Recall. That's going to definitely help Paul's chances here. There's a Time Twister as well. I don't know if you want a Time Twister when your opponent is so low on resources. There's a Serendib, and that is going to be pretty rough. Scott basically needing to draw a piece of removal on his next turn. Otherwise, this is... Well, I guess he has technically 3 turns. Drops to 4. Oh, there's take an extra turn. Okay, now, yeah, Scott does need to draw a piece of removal this turn. Swing for 3. Down to 1. Pass to you. Can you find it? Oh, and our Argothian Pixies is unfortunately not going to do it. And Paul takes it down 2-1. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe if you made it all the way to the end and you haven't yet. It is one of the best ways to support the channel. We got a ton of old school videos coming out soon, as well as pre-modern. Pre-modern is definitely the main thing we do on the channel here, but I definitely love me some old school. If you want to support the channel even more, there's a Patreon link in the video description below. That money goes towards travel expenses, like going to different tournaments. We just got back recently from a tournament in Seattle. That was an absolute blast. West. I was recording footage there, and that will be up on the channel as soon as we're done with War of the Roses. I also want to give a quick shout out to the lovely patrons whose names are appearing on the screen right now. Thank you all so much. You're amazing. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.